Hey everybody, it's Eddie from ImpelPro. Just want to go through a complete evolution with you guys on turning water off. Today we're doing a small generator. It's a Lugger. We'll go through the steps of turning the water off, draining the water out of the sea strainer, and then moving back towards removing the impeller and dealing with tight spaces. First, our 3 valve, we'll turn that off. Once we have our valve off, then we'll work at getting the water out of our sea strainer and starting to get all the water out of our system. So first, go ahead and close our valve. Next, on the bottom should be a drain port. Go ahead and drain the water out. Allow air into the system. Make sure all our water's out of it. After we get the water out of it, it's just as easy as following our tube back to the inlet side of our impeller. We already took the cover off this one. And here shortly we'll get to work on taking the cover off and pulling the impeller. Okay, so now that we have our water drained, we're going to follow our hose back from our sea strainer, which comes up behind our primary fuel filter, through here, follow it through the loom, up to our suction side. Our discharge side is on the top. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of room here. I was able to take the cover off after taking the battery and the battery box out of the way. This one specifically has the raw water exhaust hose going through it, so you can't move it very far out of the way. But the nice thing about this tool is that you're able to, with ease, this space from here to here, the tool maximizes that space. Okay, now that we have our water off, the water is drained out as far as we can. We'll probably have a little bit of water that comes out of here. So we'll go ahead and take our socket and our ratchet. We're going to take all the 6 of these bolts out. A little bit of water might come out, that's okay. We'll go ahead and take this off. One of the nice things about the tool is that once you have this off, there's a small O-ring that's inside here. And with the brass being so soft, if you're going to use 2 screwdrivers or a couple picks to try to get it off, which I'd advise against, is that you're going to put little dimples because you have to react off the body of the pump. So you might get away with it one time. Or 2, but investing in the right tools so you don't do that in the first place, it's going to be great. Okay, all 6 of the bolts are off. You should be able to just push the cover off to the side. Might get a little bit of water out of there, not a whole lot. Okay, so you can see on the end of this one there's no rubber washer. This is what it looks like. It'll be right on the end right here. If that is on yours, just take a pick or a little screwdriver and pop it out, exposing the shaft. So with boats that don't have very much room, obviously this piece is moved far enough out of the way to be able to get this in here. This version takes the rod pretty far up inside the head, so you don't need a whole lot of room here anyways. Okay, so we're gonna take our pulling tool. We're gonna wind it in until this portion of it is flush with the strong back. We're going to wind this out until it's also flush with the strong back. We're going to go between the 6 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position. We want the center of this shaft to be centered in that point there. We're going to slide it all the way in. We're going to tighten the arms down around the impeller so you can't tighten anymore by hand. We're going to run the rod in until it touches. Want to make sure there's an even gap all the way around the sides. This one has, on the end of the shaft, a little divot where this rod perfectly fits inside of it. We're going to grab the right socket. We're going to wind it in. Just keep winding it in. You can see how easy it is for the impeller to come out. When you're winding the shaft in, both the arms are pulling the same. So if you're using picks or screwdrivers where you're putting an unequal amount of force, you're going to put that shaft and the impeller pump in a bind. Keep going. Wiggle it out. Another impeller easily pulled. So you can see on the end of it, the shaft is centered up, so it's not going to get in the bind with the splined portion of the impeller. Okay, now that we have the impeller out, let's do a quick look here. So we have our O-ring here, which we're going to take out. And then this whole surface here, we want to do a light polish on, just to make sure that when we put our new O-ring on, that it has good profile. And what I mean by good profile is if you have this flat surface all the way across, this O-ring you want it to be proud. So when you put your cover back on it, that this actually gets compressed, and that's what causes it to not leak. You can see on this one, all your little green spots is the salt water reacting with the brass, so that's what we don't want. So we'll clean this up, we'll polish it up. We'll take the lid too. We want to polish all this up so that when we put the new O-ring on there, the O-ring is going to seal. You can see the circle on here now, so we want to try to keep all that salt water inside and not around the outside of it. Okay, so now that we have our impeller out, you have a little pick. I have a little spoon pick here. All we're going to do is dig into the groove and pull our old O-ring out and set it aside. Once we have that out, we can take a little wire brush and wire brush all the salt water buildup out of this groove. Then we're going to want to clean all this off here. For all the bigger stuff, you can take a razor blade and scrape all the bigger stuff off, and then come back through with a little wire brush or a little bit of emery cloth also to be able to get the high spots off, so we have a good mating surface again. Okay, now we got our flange clean, O-ring groove clean. We're gonna take our impeller, some O-ring lube, this water-based, and we'll go ahead and put lubricant all over this. We can put a little bit in here. This helps slide it on. With it being water-based, after it starts to run, all the lubricant's gonna come off. Want to make sure we get the face of it on both sides also. Put a little bit in the bore. Just make sure we coat everything. It's gonna be a lot easier to get it on. We don't want to bang on the impeller to try to get it in. So we're gonna rotate the impeller as we go in. This one has splines. It's a lot easier to line up this one than it is one that's keyed. Once you get it started, just go ahead and push it all the way in. Go ahead and grab our new O-ring. The same lubricant will help hold it in place. So what we don't want to happen is to put the O-ring on and then have part of it hang down. So when we tighten it down, it's going to leak. So just keep following it around. And it's not going to hurt anything either if you put a little bit of grease on the flange too, just to help keep it nice. Now that both of those are on, we'll follow it by putting the cap back on, putting all our bolts in. When you're putting the bolts on, let's just be careful that we don't over tighten them. They're small. The last thing we want to do is have to replace the bolts because one of them is broken off. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're going to put the lid back on. Most of these Northern Light ones, the lettering goes up. It's going to go just like this. Always like to start all the bolts before tightening them down. It's easy too to make sure that your O-ring's still in place. Just roll it out of the way, double check, bring it back up, put a little bit of pressure on it. That O-ring lube is going to help hold everything on and in place while we're tightening these down. Swap back to our smaller socket. Just want to go around. Snug everything up evenly. And with these bolts being so small, just want to go a little bit more and snug. We'll go ahead and work around a couple times. Just make sure that everything's tight. Now we're going to work backwards. So we have our pump, we have our inlet hose. We'll follow the inlet hose back to the sea strainer. We'll put our little pipe plug back in the bottom of it, and then we'll open the valve. All right, one thing I forgot to do is put the little rubber on the end. So I'll take it back apart real quick, push this in there, and they'll go back together. Okay, now we're set. Go back together. Okay, so working backwards now, we just successfully changed out the impeller. So we're gonna follow our hose back again. Goes through here, comes out here, comes back to our sea strainer and back to our through valve. Put our little plug back in the bottom of it. Once our plug's in, turn the valve back on. If we crack the top of this just to get the rest of the air out of it, once we have a little bit of water that comes out, we'll know that we are full, and that'll give our impeller a fighting chance at pulling a suction. Okay, our drain's tight in the bottom of this. I'll go ahead and loosen this up just a little bit. Let's go turn our water back on. You can hear the air coming out of the top of this. As it's filling up. So we're gonna go until we get water out of it. We're gonna tighten both sides down evenly. Make sure everything's tight. Now we're ready to run.